If you've been grinding, working hours upon hours on sales calls, but still losing deals that you know that you should be winning, this video is for you. I've reviewed over 500 sales calls over the past couple of months across various industries, niches, environments, SaaS, high ticket, real estate, inside of my sales training program, the Sales Dojo. And now after listening to thousands of conversations across my career, one thing is very clear. See, most people don't lose deals because their offer sucks or because their price is too high. They lose because of how they sell. And there are 5 very critical mistakes that I have seen that sales rep make over and over and over that kills their deals. And the worst part is that most salespeople don't even realize that they're making them. And so if you can spot and fix these things, you'll close way more deals way more quickly. Now, if you don't know me, hi, my name is Christian Jack. I coach super driven and hungry sales reps to double their commissions in the next 90 days without taking even more calls. So this is kind of my whole wheelhouse. And this is all on the back of when I closed $100 million over the past 3 years in my sales career. So mistake number 1 that I see people making is creating artificial urgency instead of just reflecting back the prospect's natural urgency. This is pretty simple because I hear it all the time on calls when reps try to force some sort of urgency conversation on prospects that isn't there. You'll hear stuff like, you have to sign here or sign now or the price goes up. This deal won't be here next week. But here's the thing, if the prospect isn't ready internally, in here and in here, your urgency is not going to do anything for them. It triggers skepticism, it triggers pushback, and ultimately just instead of trying to create this urgency, you should be focused on just holding up a mirror to the prospect's real urgency. You want to ask questions that uncover this sense of urgency, whether it be their timeline, whether it be their pain, whether it be their emotional stakes. If they don't have any sense of real internal urgency, then push on understanding why rather than forcing a decision, right? Urgency comes from the prospect's internal driver, not your own personal external deadlines. Now, mistake number 2 that I see is just talking too much and asking too few questions. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this and how many calls I've reviewed where it's just like the salesperson, the rep just talks and talks and talks. They spend 60% of the call just pitching, explaining, and selling. But the thing is about sales, there's 2 sayings that I really love for this. Number 1 is whatever I say as a salesperson is garbage, and whatever the prospect says is gospel. And the second thing that I like to say is that the prospect has all the answers to their own problems in their life. All I have to do is ask the questions to get those answers. And so most sales reps just barely ask questions. And when you do that, you miss all of the deep emotional drivers behind why people make decisions a certain way, behind what's going on in their life, inside of their business, inside of their family that has them wanting to really make a change. You miss all of the real key drivers to their human behavior. So you're selling to a generic buyer as opposed to the person who's actually in front of you. And so if you really want to know the secret to getting very, very good at sales is learn to ask deep, open-ended questions. Let the prospect talk, for God's sakes. Let the prospect do the work for you. Allow them to talk about their pain, their goals, their objections, even unspoken doubts and fears. Because the more that they talk, the more that you learn. And the more that you learn, the more you can frame. And the more you frame, the more and the better that you can position what it is that you're doing. Very simple. Nobody wants a solution that doesn't solve the context for which the solution is. If I were to walk up to you and say, hey dude, I've got this Ferrari, do you want it? If you don't want a Ferrari, then of course you're not going to buy it. But if instead I walk up with a Ferrari to somebody who's been driving a beat down Porsche for a few years and they're ready to level up in their life and be the person who has a brand new red Ferrari, then of course they're going to buy it. It's going to be simple. And so without that context, the solution doesn't matter. Now, mistake number 3 that I see is accepting surface level answers without digging deeper. So this one ties in pretty closely to the last one that I went over, but too many calls that I've reviewed, the rep will hear something like, we're just not ready right now, or we're looking at a few options, and they just kind of accept it at face value. Somebody says that, it's, this problem that they're experiencing in their business is painful. Like, why in the world would you just accept that answer? That answer is like, if you've ever seen one of those diagrams of an iceberg, there's like 20% of the iceberg above water, but then the other 80% is below the water. There's so much below those surface level answers that prospect give you. They're just the tip of the iceberg. And so they're masking real concerns, real fears, budget, worries, internal politics of the business, maybe even, that you haven't uncovered yet. So just ask clarifying questions. When somebody says, this problem that we're experiencing in the business is painful. Like, what do you mean by painful? What's going on? Then that opens the door for that other 80% of that iceberg and talking about, like, what does painful really look like exactly? Can you tell me more about the other options that you're considering? What would have to change for you to feel ready on this today? Like, there's so many very simple follow-up questions that you can ask, but the root cause of this is maybe you just not listening to the prospect. Maybe you don't realize that that's just the tip of the iceberg. So learn to dig deeper and uncover their true concerns and their real story so that you actually have a chance to address these sorts of objections before they, you get to the end of the call and you have to deal with this whole objection battle. And when they give you something that's a green flag, also don't take that at face value, right? The surface level of even good things, it's never the part of the call that actually closes the deal. Get to the stuff below the surface, and I promise you'll do better in sales. Mistake number 4 is handling objections retroactively instead of proactively. All right, I hear this all the time. The prospect drops an objection like it's too expensive, or I'm not sure if this is the right fit, and the rep ends up just kind of scrambling to respond on the spot. It feels awkward, it feels rushed, it feels reactive, it feels pushy. And the truth is that the best closers, the best sales reps in general, setters as well, they don't wait for objections at the end of the call, right? They preempt them. They anticipate them. Before you even pitch, you're planting seeds that address their objections and obstacles, right? You set expectations, you bring up budget concerns, you bring up questions about alignment and fit inside the program, and mental blocks and limiting beliefs and fears and work ethic and all those sorts of things. And what this does is it flips the dynamic, because objections now become part of the conversation where you are qualifying the person into the opportunity as opposed to reasons for them to say no on the back end. So if I simply just told you that you can turn prospects' no's into reasons that they want to do the program in the first place, what would you do? It's a very clear answer. You should be dealing with objections throughout the call in very specific ways, not just at the end. Now, last but not least, mistake number 5 that I see after reviewing these thousands of sales calls is being too accommodating and weak on your challenges and on your pushbacks. I swear I see way too many reps just trying to be nice or just being agreeable. And it doesn't mean that you need to be an ass. It doesn't mean that you have to challenge somebody so much that like they just want to get off the call. That's not what this is about. But I see time and time again that most sales reps will avoid pushing back whenever the prospect says something doubtful, whenever they bring up a fear, whenever they bring up something that could be some sort of yellow, orange, red flag or concern later on in the call. And they just, like the sales rep just ends up backing down instead of actually challenging those limiting beliefs, those hesitations, those doubts. And so here's the thing. Part of your job as a salesperson is to challenge the prospect, to help them get out of their comfort zone if that's what they wish to do. Oftentimes, like I don't want to say all the time, but oftentimes, whatever you want in your life is on the other side of your comfort zone. And one of the biggest laws of sales that I've heard from, I think it's Taylor Welch and his brother Peyton Welch, like total goats in space, shout out to them, is that everything that the prospect wants is on the other side of their comfort zone, and that people will fight like hell to stay in their comfort zone. And so again, this isn't always true. I don't think it's necessarily a law. However, I will say that when you're able to help somebody get out of their comfort zone, overcome their fears, overcome their doubts properly, strategically, and skillfully, then you build such a level of trust and authority that like it just shows how much you believe in your solution, this person's potential. But if you're just accommodating, if you're just nice, if you don't challenge the person on those limiting beliefs about putting in the work to achieve what they really want in their life, then you just end up losing control of the call. You look weak, and the prospect ultimately is going to feel much less urgency to act, which means that they're probably not even going to do it in the first place. So if you struggle with any of these 5 things and you'd like to learn how to actually overcome them, hit the link down in the description below. You get 7 days free to my sales training community, the Sales Dojo, where we go through all these things on a daily basis. You get live calls, course, you get to learn my methodology of 3D selling with belief architecture, sales strategies, and deep neuroscience, and how to close more deals and change your life with sales, just like I and so many students already have. So if you'd like to join, I'll see you inside. Click down below